Hey all, Jason Levon, priest at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Welcome to another edition of Pause and Pray. Nobody knows me better than my beloved partner, Christy. And I suspect she would say the same about me, that nobody knows her better than I do. And every once in a while in our relationship, we'll know that the other person is really wrestling with something, stirred by something, chewing on something, even though they're not saying anything. So we check in on one another and say something like, "How are you doing?" Now, when Christy asks me that, oftentimes my protective layer of stubbornness does its job. And I'll answer with a very short, "I'm fine." I'm grateful, though, that Christy gives me a lot of time and patience and space to sit with that short answer. Because every once in a while, in all of that time and space and the patience she gives me, I come to find a wisdom that doesn't come from myself, that helps me acknowledge that the only reason I answered so quickly and briefly is because I want to protect my vulnerability. And then every once in a while in that time and space when I realize that, I find the strength and grace to come back to Christy and be vulnerable and put whatever it is I'm struggling with or wrestling with on the table. And I'm grateful for the beautiful moments of growth I've found in all of that process, in all of that vulnerability. In today's daily office, we read from Matthew's Gospel, telling the story of the ministry of John the Baptist. And one of the qualities of God that John the Baptist lifted up was God's quality as an unquenchable fire, wanting to burn the chaff of life. And what is the chaff but the scaly, protective outer layer of a vulnerable seed? And the only way for the seed to grow is if that protective outer layer is peeled back and away. What another beautiful gift of Advent that we celebrate in that kind of understanding of God. And it draws us into a wonderful pause and moment of prayer today, to reflect on the ways in which we've come to experience God as an unquenchable fire at work, peeling back the rough layers that we use to protect our vulnerability. We experience it in those few people in our lives, our partners or trusted friends that sometimes seem to know us better than we know ourselves and check in on us when we're wrestling with something or stirred by something, and then give us the space and patience we need to do that wrestling in the hopes that we might find the strength to come back to them in vulnerability. Or it's experienced in support groups where we can take off our masks and not do it because we want to commiserate with each other, but precisely because in taking off our masks and being fragile and vulnerable with each other, we find support and strength and healing at work. And yes, we find it these later days of Advent as well, as our gaze continually is shifted towards the manger, awaiting a God that willingly chose out of love and desire for us to peel off every layer of strength and might and come to us as a frail, fragile, vulnerable babe. And as a result, we rejoice, because that's the only way Christmas, that's the only way redemption could really begin. Advent peace and blessings to you all.